All right, ladies and gentlemen, I am your host for today's broadcast, Insane Leader 13, as we're finally back after a multi-week break and preparing to get underway here at the night-lit streets of Singapore, one of the fastest and most difficult street circuits on the entire Formula One calendar. Our championship battle could come back into a very heated competition in the same way that the manufacturer fight is. We're going to get underway shortly. A few things to take note of, though. A bunch of different drivers serving qualifying bans after incidents that happened at our prior race at Monza. The driver who ended up winning that race at Monza, Boothby, ended up retiring swiftly after getting his first ever victory in the series. And neither of our championship contenders got any points at the Monza race from finishing positions. So, in the end, we are looking at a significant point swing that could go one way or another. But with time running out, it has now turned to Herbago to turn something around because the pressure has significantly heated up here. 15 drivers, but 3 of them will be serving qualifying bans. Herbago is anticipated to swallow over qualifying ban, as will Mantic Meerkat and XRL Flavor. So only about 12 drivers will actually properly be contending for position in the second round of qualifying here today. First driver to get onto the track, it looks like it is going to be the Alfa Romeo of Collie Boy, and just behind him, that's an Alpine. So I'm guessing that's either going to be Gulminator or Fratters here. As Gulminator following behind him. Gulminator taking the switch today and will be running on a computer rather than a PC, so there's no way I will be able to actually get interviews out to him today if he is caught up in any incidents. So most of the field already in the middle of the outlaps right now, paging Dr. Phil, trying to still get his first career win in X3 after putting on some incredible performances the last 2 races he's been with us. Waiting to see what Dr. Phil can do. We're going to go ahead and ride on board with XRL Schumacher MSCSF7 for a flyer lap here, so we can get an idea what a proper flying lap is going to look like here. Not a whole lot of extreme limitations for Schumacher, at least in qualifying. He only has one of his championship rivals running in qualifying here. That would be Exo Zola, and Zola continues to mark himself as not being a title threat. While the top two championship contenders have started to choke a little bit, Zola has not really been capitalizing on as much as we'd like to see, and because of that, I hate to say it, but Zola may be right. Anyways, we're going to go sign up for a lap and ride on board with Schumacher, see what a flying lap is like here around Singapore. And that will put Schumacher third on the timesheets right now with a 140.710. And under that lap, it looked like Exo Dave may have had an accident that might have taken him out of qualifying. So we're going to try and reach out to him and see what happened from his perspective. Right now, Zola and Dr. Phil are the only two drivers who have set their times on medium tires rather than softs. Call Boy now retires in the pits, and Eggity goes to the top with a 39.674. And coming to the party right now is XRL Dave. Dave, go ahead, include your audio. I'm going to go ahead and include my audio on your stream also. Dave, big accident there in the turns 1 and 2 complex. What happened that took you out here in the first round qualifying?
I genuinely don't know. I just my tyres were maybe just too cold, and I was just taking it easy because I just had to settle up, and I just went round and I gently touched the wall and lost my wheel.
Alright, nasty to see this happen. Because of this, it looks like you're going to be starting near the back, if not the very back of the grid today. However, it's only 15 cars. Do you think you have a car under you that will let you survive to the end and finish in the points?
Yeah, I think today's race is going to be about being smart and staying out of the walls. We're going to have DNFs, we're going to have safety cars, so it's just about picking the right strategy and reacting to the safety cars as we get. And I think anyone who does that is going to finish pretty high up, regardless of qualifying position.
Alright, well, thanks for jumping in and talking with us, mate. It's a shame to see you taking out qualifying this early.
Thank you. Cheers.
At this point, 9 of our 12 drivers that could have qualified have set times. The gap in times is large. 139.674 Eggity at the top, and then 142.526 as Higgs Boston in 9th. Everyone here is in a position that all they need to do is set a time, but as we saw with Dave there, you can't just be lackadaisical. The walls here are very, very aggressive. That's really not a proper term, but it sounds a lot better than the truth, but it's easy to be stupid here. So the walls can be very aggressive and can reach out and nick you. No, the walls aren't actually going to do that. But either way, it comes to a scenario where you have to be always aware when you're on a street circuit. Imperium now beginning his lap in the Williams. Paging Dr. Phil also out on circuit on another outlap at the moment. Big slide there for Imperium in the same place that Dave nearly lost it at, as Imperium puts the Williams over the curbs. Now we get into the DRS zone, and this is where you'll see your highest top speed at on this circuit. (181 miles an hour) before the braking zone. I've heard that there's a possibility that the McLarens might hit as high as 195, if not 200. While most of the rest of the field is likely only going to be hitting about 185 to 190. The question, though, becomes, well, do the McLarens have a car that's still going to be good enough in these slower corners to keep under control? Remember, at Baku, that was the first race where the McLarens really found that extreme speed with that super low wing setup. It's brought them so much success until the last few races. They may be going back to that setup now. We won't know until the race itself starts. Big slide from Imperium's rear end because, again, neither of the McLarens are qualifying. Both of them are serving qualifying bans, for instance, that happened at Monza last week. But with all the drivers that have dropped out, I'm going to be honest, it may not be as much of an issue for them as it seems. Only 15 drivers. And right now, the game has put Dave behind the drivers with qualifying bans, so Meerkat would be starting 12th, Herbago 14th, so it's not very hard for the McLarens to get back into points-paying positions. And I'll go over the exact points loadout for everyone a little bit later on. And then I'll turn to Fratters and see what Fratters can do in that Alpine. But there's two titles in play, the Drivers and Manufacturers. Drivers Championship, right now, Schumacher has a strong grasp on it, as if Fratters has invalidated his lap. So he'll have to go again. But Schumacher has a pretty solid grip on the title right now. Not a firm, insurmountable one, but a respectable, solid one. And the manufacturers right now, though, Mantic Meerkat has been doing a lot of heavy lifting, and it has helped put them in the lead by a small margin in the manufacturers' fight at the moment. Clean lap now begins again for Fratters. So yeah, when it comes to manufacturers' championship, at least, the McLarens do not have to pass their main drivers in order to get up near the front and actually get a proper run going here and start adding to their overall point lead in the manufacturers. Paging Dr. Phil goes to the top in the Red Bull. 139.639. He got rid of the medium tires and threw on a set of softs. So right now, Zola is the only driver who is stuck with setting only a lap on the mediums. Fratter is nearly out of fuel at the moment. The light is flashing aggressively, but this is a clean and legal lap he's in the middle of right now. Galminator now retires in the pits. Did Fratters hit the wall there? Camera angle wasn't great, but there's a possibility that Fratters may have scuffed the wall at the sides of the tires. I don't see any wing damage, so if he did, it must have been a relatively flush to the side of the car impact. And now the Alpine goes into 90-degree corners. 7 different 90-degree, well, 6 really, but it feels more like 7. The last corner overall is 90 degrees, but it's really split more into like being 2 different quarters with a lot of speed carried through them. And yes, Fratters, despite being very low on fuel, is going to commit to finishing this lap. Bit of a slide there. He will set at 144.185, so not a great lap for Fratters either. Just a bit more than 4 minutes left in the session. Fratters and Imperium both have a chance to set another lap, but realistically, everyone could go ahead and retire and they'd be fine to the end. These 11 drivers are all guaranteed a spot in Q2. And the fight to make it into Q2, I think, is going to be really strange because the gaps in times are extremely large, and we don't know how many drivers were holding back. Fratters may not have been pushing at his full extent to try to get a lap in. As we now see Dr. Phil come into the pits. Frater scooting his way around the track. Fuel just about out. And the track is very nearly silent here. And we could see an early end to qualifying. We wait for Dr. Phil, Eggety, and Fratters to retire. And we will get underway with Q2 a little earlier than normal in that scenario also. Fratters is simply just not going to have enough time to get back out onto the circuit and get another lap in. So right now, Dr. Phil is on top of the timesheets. And we wait for Fratters to retire, and we can end Q1 extremely early. Right now, at the top of the timesheets, it's a Red Bull once again. And Honda engines hold the top 2 spots overall. Q2 will be a little bit more interesting. 11 drivers fighting for 10 spots. Don't know why Fratters hasn't manually retired yet, so it looks like we're going to actually have to wait for this clock to all the way count out. Heads up, next week is Suzuka, one of the classiest tracks on the Formula 1 calendar, but also one of the hardest to overtake at, so qualifying will be extremely important then, especially with the way that the title fight has been. All right, here we go. So yeah, you can see there, although at the top 2 are within 400ths of each other, 35 thousandths to be exact. The 11 drivers who did set times overall, 4.5 second gaps between them. So there's a lot of time that needs to be found by drivers lower down the grid like Golminator, Higgs, Boston, and Pierre, and especially Fratters. All it takes is an accident by someone else, and those drivers could make it in. With only 11 drivers in a position to properly fight for the top 10 spots. Shout out to Dragonborn. Born was having a respectable run at Monza last week before he ended up crashing into a stricken car just as the yellow came out. He also is coming off of a win a few weeks before that, which had been at Zandvoort in pouring rain, where he underfueled his car by 7 laps, baying on a bunch of yellow early in the event. He got it and was able to make it last to the end. So there you are, Meerkat Flavor and Herbago. Once again, they retire. because they have that qualifying ban. And it is raining, so this is going to get interesting. So the first driver out is going to be an Alfa Romeo of Collie Boy, and the track is wet. The key important things that this means, well, everyone's on intermediates. The laps are going to be slower, and more than anything else, there will be no DRS, so the laps will be excessively slow. Anyone that had a wet weather setup on will find a significant advantage here, but then the question becomes, well, what are we looking at in the race? Will we have rain in the race itself, or is this just going to be a qualifying only thing? I can't imagine driving one of these cars around Singapore in these wet weather conditions. These cars barely have very much grip in the front end to begin with, and in the wet, you're going to be sliding all over the place, and you're not really going fast enough in some of the corners for downforce to really apply. Not all the corners, but a few of them. So it's really, really, really going to be a headache, I imagine. And you have less grip and everything. Interesting enough, this is paging Dr. Phil, and he is right behind Schumacher SF7 at the moment. Dr. Phil would love to go back to the top of the timesheet, so what we're actually going to do is, for this lap, we're going to ride silently on board with Dr. Phil and see what a flying lap is like in the Red Bull on a wet weather Singapore circuit on intermediate tires. We'll go silent for a lap starting now. And you can see there how the lap times have dropped off significantly. Dr. Phil, second fastest at the moment with a 149.811. Schumacher struggling a bit, 150.329. Next driver who will come across the line to set a time will be X3 veteran Snake, as he is making his way through the 90-degree corners at the end of the circuit right now. Most of the field out on circuit. Imperium, Fratters, Galvanier, and Higgs have yet to get out onto the track to attempt a lap. And that is Eggity, who has had an incident. He has gone off in one of the runoff areas at the start of Sector 3. Lucky for him, with so few cars on track, he's able to back up and get moving without too much of an issue. Snake goes up to a second place time now with a 149.617. One of the other frustrating and odd things about this track, there are a lot of banners that overlook a lot of walkway tunnels and just areas where the track is covered. So while rain is falling, rain's not going to be falling evenly across the entire circuit. What that ends up meaning is that you have a scenario where, yes, you need the intermediate tires, but the intermediates are going to have brief moments of being a little bit overheated as they go through some of the parts of the track that aren't exactly wet. And it will change the grip significantly going from wet to dry and dry to wet on a set of hot, in-use intermediate tires. Now, most of the drivers should have the ability to overcome it, but we've seen at Monaco in the past that has been a debilitating incident. So, Dragonborn out on track now, as is Zola, and Galminator has begun his lap as well as just begun an outlap as well. 187 miles an hour for Dragonborn, so even without DRS, he's hitting a respectable top speed at the end of the back straightaway. 3 DRS zones here on the circuit, one across the start-finish line straight, one at the end of Sector 1, and that ends at the start of Sector 2. That's the longest one on the circuit. And then there's one more DRS zone that is at the end of Sector 2 going into Sector 3. Again, in the qualifying, you don't get use of any of those, but DRS zones are indicative of where the best possible chances to make overtakes are on the circuit. Real quickly, we think back. Oh, and DRS has been enabled now. Oh, and that's going to change anything. Also, Dragonborn is on soft tires. I didn't notice that. So we're likely going to start seeing drivers join back onto the track and put on slicks instead of the intermediates. So I did not realize that the track was drying out as quickly as it did. But this could work out very well for drivers like Shikari, who had already... I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that, but I was distracted because a very handsome and bashful man known as XRL Shikari has just joined my party. Oh my goodness, I did not expect this. The British are here to colonize me again, gentlemen. Anyway, Shikari, go ahead, include your audio. We are in the middle of Q2. We started Q2 in the rain, and now we are beginning to move into dry circumstances.
Oh, lovely.
What do you think we can expect here from these 11 drivers vying for 10 positions?
Quicker laps. Now it's dry. Yeah. That's probably what we can expect. We can expect the unexpected.
Alright, of note, Galminator and Zola both out on circuit, but they were caught unawares by the change. Zola still has the intermediate tires on, so he'll likely be coming into the pits shortly. Galminator has invalidated the lap he's in the middle of right now. Fratters and Imperium both are in the pits right now, trying to get set up. Imperium's actually launching back out into the circuit. Eggity is out on track. Schumacher has yet to come out. Dr. Phil, who is at the top of one of the drivers at the top of the timesheets in Q1, he's trying to get out now to try and get a proper flying lap in. But this kind of turned into an interesting scenario because Q2, for all intents and purposes, has now become half of what it was before. Yes, everyone has some wear on the intermediate tires, but unless the race itself has wet weather in it, that's not really going to have much of an impact on the race itself. So basically, Q2 has gone from being a normal 15-minute section to being only about a 6.5-minute section, and the man who goes to the top is Eggity. Great job on his part, and the game says he did on intermediate. Yes, Eggity goes to the top on intermediate tires on a dry racetrack, only for Dragonborn to go right back on the softs. 142.725. The fastest times we saw in Q1s were in the 139s. Who's going to get back into that range first?
Fratters probably, who's on an outlap. Dave's wanting Fratters to crash, by the way, so you might want to watch him just in case.
Ooh. Well, Fratters was 4 seconds off pace in Q1. Now I think
he's on an
may
outlap,
have
but there is a
tapped the
chance.
wall. Yeah.
He's already crashed.
Well, I think he just tapped the wall. I don't think he damaged the car, but I'm pretty sure he's had some close incidents with the wall, and that was the reason why Frater's lap in Q1 was 4 seconds off the pace of the top time. Dave has also completely crashed out in Q1 on the start of his flying lap.
Did he?
Said the car the car apparently just got completely away from him in that turn 1, 2, 3 sector. How many turns is that at the very start of the circuit? I think is that supposed to be 2 or 3 turns?
Three, I think.
Okay, well, he crashed at the very top of it, irregardless. Yeah, I don't know either, but for all you know, it could be like Red Bull Ring, where they count it as 17 turns, where that makes no sense. But anyways, yeah, but he had an instant there, so Dave is going to be starting last. It's a 15-car grid, the 2 McLarens, and the Ferrari of XRL Flavor, all of them serving qualifying bans.
Right.
Rumor is, in the paddock...
He's invalidated.
Yeah, that's no good for Fratters. But one thing that is going to go good is Golminator to the top, 141.439. Golminator has been a very strong qualifier, but has not been able to put together in the race itself. Dragonborn now improves into the 41, so the 41.939. Here comes the Red Bull across the line. Dr. Phil back to the top. He's going to take the entire field to the ranch at this rate.
Yeah, he's got pace only 1.4 seconds quicker. He's going to be the one to beat today, unless guys like MSC, Zola can do anything about it.
Yeah, we don't know what Zola's true pace is. Zola, it's not really sandbagging. It was more strategic play, but he only set a time on medium tires in the first round of qualifying. And with only 12 drivers fighting in a scenario where everyone was guaranteed to advance, there was really no incentive to go hard pushing in the first round of qualifying. That's not really the case now. Snake will be the next driver across the line. What can he do in the Mercedes? Very nearly loses it entering the final quarter. He's really attacking the track. 139.603. That's what we like to see from an X3 veteran.
Cool. Good lap from him. We've got an Aston of Higgs going... Oh, he nearly hit the wall.
Here comes Imperium. He'll be the next driver to go from intermediate tires to soft tires. Oh, big slide out of the final quarter. He moves out of the way, so that way it will let a Red Bull by.
43.
Yeah, it's a 43, but he backed all the way out of it at the end of that lap. So he honestly could have gone a little bit faster. I don't know what was going on there.
Fred is on another lap now. Zola's on a lap. Higgs also starting a lap.
Watch Schumacher, because now it's his time. Schumacher has none of his championship rivals starting up near the front with him, assuming he can qualify on the front. His times early on in Q1 and the wet in Q2 were not the greatest. What can he pull up now? Again, to be fair, he doesn't even have to put up the greatest time now. There's only 11 drivers fighting for 10 spots. 150.329, that's not a very competitive time, to say the least.
Yeah, I think it's one driver going out of this session.
Yeah, it's either going to be, at this rate, it looks like it will either be Fratters, Zola, or Higgs Boston. Dr. Phil retires in the pits. He says, hey, there's no need for me to go again. And I have to agree, right now, with the way it looks, if you're saying time in the 39s or the 40s, you're pretty much guaranteed a spot in the final round of qualifying.
Probably. Bear in mind the 3 drivers who are currently 9th, 13th, and 14th haven't set a time yet, so we won't know until they've set a lap, and until the guys who set it on into set a lap as well.
Yeah, and that's about to start changing in 5 seconds, because here comes Fratters out of the final corner. He'll finally get a proper lap in, 141.674. That's good enough for 4th at the moment.
And Zola coming around the final corner. He will set a 139.7.
So there we are. Zola goes back to the top in the Red Bull camp, and Collie Boy, 38.859.
What a lap.
So now Schumacher is on the bubble, and Higgs could knock him out as Higgs crosses the line. Yes, Schumacher, your points leader is on the outside looking in. Higgs Boston, 8th with a 41.948.
MSC's on a lap. Diggity's just started a lap right at the last. So it's kind of between those two, I think, now. Imperium as well.
43. Yeah, so if Schumacher and Eggity put proper laps together, Imperium will have no recourse, and he'll get squeezed out here. Across the line, Schumacher, 39.934. So now Eggity is on the outside looking in. Imperium is on the bubble.
Eggity 2 seconds up after sector 1.
If he can keep gaining time as this goes on, he'll get this. He'll squeeze Imperium out at the last moment.
Yeah, let's see what he does. He's on his way. After Sector 1, obviously.
Going through these really tight, not quite S's in Sector 2, over and through the bridge. Hard braking zone, turn around, and then you get onto the last DRS section on the straightaway, which is at the exit of Sector 2 at the start of Sector 3. At the end of Sector 2, he'll have a time of 1:06.089, so he's nearly 5 whole seconds up. Mate, that time alone, that would be enough to get him ahead of Imperium. He looks like Agony is going to squeeze Imperium out here.
Yeah, it's looking that way. He's on the final part.
Yeah, he just needs to keep it legal. Don't cut the circuit. If you need to sacrifice a little bit of time, that's fine. Don't cut the circuit. Don't hit the wall. That's so important right now.
He's just got to beat a 43.3
oh,
and he
he's
spins!
He backs to the wall! Is that going to be it? He needs to still be 4 seconds up! Can he still maintain the 4 seconds? This could be major controversy
41,
here!
42, 43, and that's that.
It's not going to happen! No! Imperium is going to advance and Agony is out!
He's only a 10th quicker in the end.
Imperium is going to advance into the final round of qualifying, despite being nearly a second and a half off of 9th place, and Imperium makes it into the final round of qualifying just off the back of making no major mistakes. I can't believe what we just saw. Actually, I can believe it, but I don't want to believe it. At one point, at the end of qualifying session 1, Agony was the second fastest person on the track. And now,
Crazy, isn't it?
now he's not even going to be fighting for a top 10 starting spot.
It's absolutely mental. And in the Twitch chat, CMP says, Dr. Phil would like to remind you that he was on used softs for that run in Q2.
Ooh, that could be really interesting then, because Dr. Phil set a time that was 1.1 seconds out of Collie Boy. Now, Collie has nearly a 3/4 second advantage over the rest of the field, but if Dr. Phil goes from used softs to flying softs, my question is, what's the difference? What's the advantage? Used softs to nice, fresh softs. Is it, what, a 1/4 of a second? A half a second? A full second? What's that difference going to end up being? I don't know if Dr. Phil is going to be able to close a 1.1 second gap on Collie Boy, but A, we don't know if Collie Boy is going to be able to set the same time down, and then here's the other thing, Zola is really, really showing up for qualifying right now. I know some people are thinking, oh, Schumacher's going to be up front, he's going to take home pole and walk it. It's not looking likely. I think this may be Red Bull that might have a potential lockout on the front row with the way this is going. But speaking of Red Bull, there is another driver that has a Red Bull on the car. It's the AlphaTauri driver of Agony. Agony, go ahead, include your audio. A spin at the last moment. You were almost 5 seconds up, if not more than 5 seconds up, and with the spin, you lost it, and you will be starting 11th in the event. What do you have to say? What happened?
Just a little too aggressive. I was trying. I knew I was in 11th there, and I needed a decent lap because everybody was on softs, and yeah, just got into it a little too hard there, and disappointing. But I'm hoping to make up for it in the race.
All right. Well, you're gonna be starting 11th. It's a 15-car field. Do you think you have a car that will survive to the end of the race and finish in the points-paying positions?
I do. I think I have pace today. I've been working on this track quite a bit, so I'm excited to get out there and see what we got.
All right, thanks for jumping in and talking with us. It's a shame to see you spin out like this, but I will say thank you because at least it gives us good broadcasting material.
Appreciate you, man. Take care.
All right, so the first driver out on track here in the final round of qualifying is Dragonborn 2004. Everyone, in fact, is on track right now except for Imperium. I think in the Williams camp, they didn't realize that he made it until the last minute. I don't think anyone was really anticipating Imperium to make it after that AlphaTauri was up by nearly 2 full seconds in just Sector 1 on his final lap. So, yeah, as it stands right now, I think Imperium and the Williams team will be a little bit late getting out on track, coming to grips with the fact that they actually did make it, and they need to rechange their strategy now.
The Dragonborn is about to start his lap, coming to the end of Sector 3. What's your prediction
Only-
for Paul?
Right now, I'm going to think it's probably going to end up being Dr. Phil. I have a feeling Dr. Phil's going to set a time in the mid-39s.
Do you reckon? We
Now,
shall
second
see.
could be a little. Second could go to either Zola, Schumacher, Snake, or maybe even Goldman or Collie Boy. There's at least 4 or 5 names that I could see. Oh, and Dragonborn's
no,
around,
dear.
coming onto the back straightaway.
That's first of many spins that we'll see today. Well, it's not the first spin we've seen, but first spin in
Well,
Q3.
this changes circumstances because now Goldmanator is the driver who will set the first time of the session that everyone else is going to be chasing.
Yeah, it's going to be. It's definitely going to be interesting. I reckon Cooley Boy's going to get second. I reckon MSC or Phil will get first. And then Zola in third.
Yeah, there are quite a few drivers that could be at the front. The big thing is it's really hard to gauge where everyone's real performance is because Q1 and Q2, the very front of the field, haven't really had a big reason to go extremely hard pushing a result out. Why bother? You're guaranteed a top 5, top 6 starting spot anyway, so don't burn the tire up and show everyone what you have in the first round. It's a very elaborate ploy, and then you also have the counter theory to that of, hey, go ahead and go full bore, get used to how the car feels when you're pushing at 110% early on, so that way when you do that in the final round of qualifying, it doesn't feel new to you. There are two sides to the argument there, but that's one of the elements that happens when you have these segmented qualifying sessions like what you have in IndyCar and Formula 1, where the field just kind of slowly whittles itself apart. Goldmanator invalidates his lap in the second to last corner and comes into the pits. So it ends up being Dragonborn who does cross the line first, but it's Dr. Phil's time of 39.033 that everyone's actually going to be chasing. I said Phil was going to set a time in the mid-39s. He said 39.0. That's extremely powerful. Could we see Phil pull a Sebastian Vettel and just settle with that time and not come back onto the track? I believe it was 2012 where Sebastian Vettel went out in the final round of qualifying, set a time early on, and they just retired the car because they didn't need to go any faster. No one even came close. I mean, yeah, sure, the Red Bull team was all nervous and biting their nails and stuff in the pits, but they were that good, and I wonder if Dr. Phil is there. The answer is no, because look who has already gone to the top. It is Collie Boy. The Alfa Romeo team has absolutely exploded out the gate with performance in qualifying since about the 5th race of the season this year. Now, their finishing performance hasn't been there as consistently, but they've finally been turning that around also. It's kind of a shame because if the Alfa Romeo boys put their stuff together early on, they could have been contending for Manufacturers' Championship.
They really could. Yeah, they really could. We're just seeing now what Cooley can do and what Dave can do. Next season's going to be interesting for those two drivers. Dragonborn's currently on a lap. And he's definitely going to improve, but by how much? 139.8 puts him 5th place. Just under 4 tenths behind Snake in 4th. And now Goldmanator's come out onto the... Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, now Goldmanator's coming out onto the track to start his out lap for his first lap of the session. MSC pits.
Higgs Boston also is going to go ahead and come into the pits. Collie Boy also is likely going to be coming into the pits now. Yes, that's exactly what he does. We have just enough time for everyone to go out for one more flying lap. Imperium and Frater still have yet to get out onto the circuit. Goldmanator is in the middle of an outlap now after accidentally invalidating his initial flyer. And for Goldmanator, it's going to get really tough. I don't know if Goldmanator is going to get another chance at a lap. This may be his only real proper shot at this.
Yeah, with 5 minutes remaining. There isn't much time left if you want to set a lap and get back in, but there might be just enough. Takes about 2 minutes, I think, to do an out lap. Then in lap. But maybe not. Maybe not then.
Well, assuming that's I like to assume it's 140 for each of the laps.
Yeah.
So 140 in, 140 flyer, 140 out. Your flyer lap's probably going to be a little faster than that, but that's going to counter the fact that the in and out laps are being made artificially faster also. You multiply 1 minute and 40 seconds by 3, that's 3 minutes and 120 seconds. That's 5 minutes in itself. Now, granted, at the end of the session, you can kind of discount the cooldown lap.
Yeah.
You can discount maybe part of the final flyer, so that
Need
can
to go
cut
out
the
with
time
maybe
down
a-
significantly.
Go out with maybe a couple of minutes just to get out the pits, really. Just to give that
Yeah,
time
I'll
to go
say
out the pits.
I'll say if you can get out of the pits with 2 minutes left, you'll be good. Less than 2 minutes,
Yeah.
you're cutting it really close. But I've seen a lot of people in all of the XRL divisions, X2, X3, Dev, Realistic, even the few times I've gotten to do the midweek broadcasts, every single time, well, not every time, but very often, I'll see drivers go ahead and really squeeze themselves tight on the timesheet. So maybe the drivers are a little bit more rambunctious when it comes to chasing the clock than I am. I don't like the idea of crossing the line with only a second left. I see people do it, and it can be done, but no.
It probably means that they have to rush the outlap, which means more wear on the tyre. And
All right, so here's an interesting thing. Golminator in the middle of his flyer was actually held up by his teammate Fratters for a moment there, who was on an outlap. There just wasn't really anywhere for Fratters to move aside. That's kind of one of the other problems with the street circuit. Traffic, outlap, inlap, there's not really a whole lot of areas that you can move off unless you want to completely drag the car to a stop in a runoff section. It's really, really hard to keep the track clear for someone on a proper flyer.
yeah, there's not much room on this track at all. But Golminator doesn't look like it. I mean, it may have done because he's 7th place now with a 40.5.
And Imperium will get a lap attempt in here as we have a little less than 3 minutes left. For Golminator, I'm going to be honest, I think that's going to be the best we see from him. There is no way I see that he's going to be able to get into the pits and then get another lap out, because that would be in itself, that in itself is going to be more than 3 minutes, just an in-lap and an out-lap, not to mention the turnover time in the pit. So Golminator, his best time, 140.537. He's not going to be starting any better than 7th.
Yeah, that's his qualifying done, I believe.
But check this out. At the front of the field, Collyboy, Dr. Phil, Schumacher, Dragonborn, all on outlaps right now, preparing to go faster. Zola is coming out of the pits as well. He also wants to go faster. Higgs Boston is now beginning his flyer lap as well. But the first one to take note of is Collyboy. The game's already moved the outlap. It shouldn't have. He's still technically on his outlap right now. What can he do as he begins his next flyer? Can he go even faster to hold on to a pole position? It would be a shocking and stunning result if he could do so. It looks like it will be a fight between midfield veteran Collyboy, who has been exploding with performance this year, and Dr. Phil, the newcomer, who has had some incredible, albeit controversial runs in his only 2 prior starts in X3 before this. As Collyboy sends it around the 90-degree corner and now pops up in the DRS. He lays on the DRS as he's flying down the back straightaway at the end of the fastest straightaway on the circuit. His top speed is only at 185 miles an hour. He slides really wide coming out of the corner, now through the more tighter and technical section. Not quite 90-degree corners. In fact, these corners are tighter than 90 degrees here. You can't make an overtake here, but you can definitely gain and lose a bunch of time. It's a little run, no DRS into a series of not quite S's. Right now, Collyboy still seems to have the car under control. As he comes down to it, it's going to be a near hairpin corner once he's out of the bridge, and then he'll come on to the last DRS straightaway. Once he crosses that, he will be starting the 3rd sector of the lap. At the end of sector 2, he will have a time of 105.539. He is up by 5,000ths of a second at the moment. This could be incredible. Snake retires in the pits. He's not going to try and go faster.
And paging Dr. Phil has not been able to improve on his time, so he stays 2nd, which opens the door for MSC and also Cooley as well.
2 corners left for Collyboy. He's nearly out of ERS. He taps the wall. He taps the outside wall. He is out of ERS. The lap may have fallen apart at the last moment for him. Collie is down on time. He does not improve, but it is still a monster time he's at right now. That
An
could
MSC
be enough
2
to
tenths
give
up.
Collie.
MSC 2 tenths up. It's still won't be enough. Let's see if he can gain any more time on the final couple of corners. As he's about to go around the final corner,
He's out
will
of
he be able to
DRS.
improve? He will,
Second.
but it's only good enough for second place. And look at the time difference between Cooley and MSC. 0.003 of a second between them.
It might not be over yet. Dr. Phil's up by 0.3 at the end of Sector 2.
Oh gosh.
And Dragonborn is still in the middle of the lap. Zola is in the middle of the lap, as well as Fratters, who's invalidated, though, and Imperium, who's also invalidated. So Zola, Dragonborn, and Dr. Phil could all find something here. Zola is up by nearly
Right then.
half a second. Dragonborn is
Dragonborn.
down on time, though. Oh, he's around
And why has he done
He's
that?
into the wall.
Oh, dearie me.
He lost control
To
going
be
over
fair.
the final curve, I think.
Nah, he did
And
that
Phil
on
goes to the
purpose.
top! 38.7, and Dr. Phil is going to steal the pole position!
Nah, Dragon didn't lose it. He did that on purpose. I thought there were time remaining, so I was wondering why he did it, but we were out of time, so it's whatever. Zola then, the last person to cross the line. Will he be able to improve? He will by
Fourth.
half a second, which is good enough for fourth.
But at the top, it is Dr. Phil. He is going to send the entire field to the ranch today, it seems. As no one has been able to match him.
It's going to be an interesting race with Phil in the lead, going into turn one, and Cooley in second place.
Yeah.
Look at the time difference between the top three, though. There's literally nothing to split them.
Yeah,
Like a blink
Phil,
of an eye.
Boy, Schumacher, all right on top of each other. The big issue for Schumacher, he's not going to be starting on the front row. So even if he gets a great run, the run from your grid spot into turn one is not very big. So even if Schumacher gets a great run, what is he going to do? He can't throw it up on the inside or the outside, try and make it 3 wide into 1. You're just going to cause an accident. He's going to have to figure out a way on track to overtake the Red Bull and the Alfa Romeo. Zola is in fourth, and if Schumacher ends up getting screwed over, that coupled with the McLarens being way back there, this would be Zola's, I would say, possibly last chance to bring himself into the championship fight. If Zola doesn't get lucky and really perform well today, while he may mathematically still be eligible, realistically, I think we might end up being able to write him out of it. Speaking of which, it will now be a 5-minute wait period until we get to the start of the event itself. I am going to go ahead and run us down through the title fight as it is right now for the X3 series. Again, Monza, a lot
I'm
of
just going
really
to go grab a drink.
crazy...
I'll be back in a couple.
Yep, that's cool. A lot of crazy stuff went on at Monza. Manufacturers Championship, this is what it looks like at the moment. AlphaTauri is 10th with 65 points. Williams is 9th with 81. Aston Martin is 8th with 89 points. Excuse me. 7th is Mercedes with 107 points. 6th is Alpine with 114. 5th is Haas with 118. 4th is Alfa Romeo with 125. 3rd is Red Bull with 196. And then you have your manufacturer championship contenders. Second is Ferrari with 322 points. First is McLaren with 329, so a 7-point spread in McLaren's favor. In the Drivers' Championship, things look a little bit different. 19th is BTEC Geleben with 2 points. 18th is V8 Irons with 8. There is a tie for 16th between Paging Dr. Phil and Imperium SG. They both have 12 points each. 15th is Goldmayer 2361. He has 24 points. 14th is Dragonborn 2004. Still has those 26 points from his win, but that's it thus far. 13th is Mercedes AMG with 28 points. 12th is Higgs Boston 97 with 32. 11th is XRL Snake with 36. 10th is Eggity 75 with 41. 9th is Plastic Glove with 53 points. 8th is Coley Boy with 57. 7th is AK Herbie 53 with 58 points. 6th is XRL Dave with 68. 5th is XRL Flavor with 79. So that fight for 5th in the Drivers' Championship is actually heating up really strongly now. 4th is Mantic Meerkat. Meerkat has had some respectable runs, but it looks like he's just not going to be able to put together a run for the title here. So he, for all intents and purposes, is just going to try and run down Zola for 3rd. 3rd is Zola with 176 points. 2nd is Herbago with 192 points. And leading the championship is Schumacher SF7 with 243 points. So a 41-point advantage for Schumacher at the top of the timesheet. Schumacher has led the championship for the majority of the season thus far this year. With that in mind, though, things could very easily change. A pair of DNFs coupled with some wins by Herbago, and we could see Herbago go right back to the top of the timesheets. It's not like this title is over by any means. Race director, real quickly, I want to see what tires everyone is going to be starting on. And look at this. Most of the field seems to think that hards will be the way to go for the start of this race. Dragonborn in 6th, maybe an exception starting on the mediums, as is Herbago starting on 14th, also on the mediums. We're going to stand by for just a brief moment and be back in less than a minute here. Alright, gentlemen, I am back as we're preparing to get underway here at Singapore. 50% race. The first XRL points paying event of 2023.
Minute and a half left on prediction.
Welcome back.
Yeah, about a minute left on the prediction as well. On the Twitch
Yeah.
stream.
I'll say this, racing, the actual results of this event can go either way. I do want to remind you, when we were running the full season in the last game, F1 21, coming here, at that point, Chubby Spark was the one who was the number 1 driver for Ferrari, and Schumacher was the number 2. And Spark got into it with another driver, V8 Irons, and in the end, Irons dominated the race, only to lose out by less than a tenth of a second to Schumacher. Schumacher ended up taking the win there, so he knows how to win here against faster drivers, but that kind of shows because at that race, Schumacher was only about 4th or 5th fastest going into the event and ended up coming out on top. Just because someone's right at the top and one of the fastest people here doesn't mean that they're guaranteed to win here at Singapore. The thing with Singapore is that if you're fast enough in a straight line, you can get ahead of somebody. Yeah, you're going to lose a chunk of time in the slower twisties, but you can't pass here unless it's at the end of a straightaway. So I go ahead and I point to I bring this up because I want to point to the McLaren drivers of Meerkat and Herbago. Again, the word I've heard, the rumor in the streets, is that the McLaren team is going back to, the same thing they've run most of the season since about Baku, the extremely low wing setup. Yes, that's cost them some results, but it's brought them more good than bad. Those low wing setups may mean that coupled with DRS, they could get ahead of drivers going down the straights alone and then just peel away. The next time you get to the straights, peel away far enough that DRS of the driver following can't match, because that's been the real big thing that's really helped them out. Sure, they've made mistakes and they've ended up farther back in the field, but their straight line speed is so great that even with DRS, you've not been able to keep up with them. Counterpoint to that, there are 3 DRS zones on this circuit, but 2 of those 3 DRS zones are relatively short, so the advantage isn't going to be as extreme here as it would be at, say, Monza or Baku. I'm not going to say how it could or couldn't go. We could see a lot of different things, but irregardless, keep an eye on those McLarens here.
And we're getting underway in less than a minute. Shouldn't be too long out. 1 minute past we go. With Dr. Phil in first and Cooley in second. It's going to be an interesting run to turn 1. And then you've got MSC and Zola on the second row. That's going to be an interesting battle as well. Though any of these 4 drivers could really be first going into turn 1.
Yeah. They need to nail this initial start. And here's the thing. A lot of the field, at least last I looked at it, it looked like a lot of the field wants to start on hards. Normally, since this game has come out, the meta has been start on the mediums, go to hards. We've actually seen people lose races because they've been off strategy. I don't think that was the actual reason, but that's been the generally accepted reason.
Yeah.
1 second as I go ahead real quickly and bring up
Yeah, of
the
course.
detail. There we are. Yeah, look at this. Only of our 16 starters, I don't know who Lovell 15 is, but of our starters, 3 of them are starting on medium tires. Everyone else starting on the hards.
Yeah.
And you look at the drivers who are starting on the mediums, and it's really unique names. Dragonborn is starting on the mediums. He's starting 6th. Imperium, he's 10th. He's starting on mediums. And Herbago in 14th, he's also starting on mediums. I understand why Herbago's starting on mediums. Herbago, with this qualifying ban, he's kind of in a position that he's got to do something crazy to get up through the grid as quickly as possible. And if there's a yellow flag early on enough in the race, that will work out well to let him cross over onto the hards to make it to the end of the event. Is it the best strategy? I can't answer that. But it's one that I understand. However, I really like the hard medium setup. I like the idea of the car maybe starting off slow, but you're just going to keep getting faster and faster as the race goes on. The counterpoint to that, though, is I've always been a very strong advocate. You don't want to be on the same strat that everyone else is. Because if you're on the same strategy as the driver ahead of you, and the driver behind you is on the same strategy as you, there's not going to be any movement. There's not going to be any change in the field. You're going to kind of be stuck there unless you are just way that much better of a driver. Yes, the Formula 1 games are a little bit more arcadey than what you have in real life because you can't properly one-to-one emulate real-life performance. But the gaps between the drivers, especially near the front of the field, are so close that you can't just easily make an overtake on pure ability alone. You need to have some other advantage to make something happen.
Yeah, you need a bit of pace. You need maybe some different tires. Around here, you know, there's nowhere to really overtake, so it's a waste of, in a way, it's a waste of time going on the mediums to start with. Think about it.
I don't know if it's a waste of time. It's because you're going to be flying at least in the first sector alone.
And Herbago was spun again.
Well, Herbago, you can't say Herbago's not getting heat into the tires.
That is true. You might have to actually try and cool them down before getting to the line.
Yeah.
Tell you what, it's a good job they don't put any wear on them.
All right. The grid now lining up.
I was going to say, look at Dr. Phil's position as well. And look at Cooley's position. They're going to be going straight into each other if they're not careful.
Yeah. I think both of them are betting on the other one making a mistake.
Yeah. And then you've got Mantis.
Zola.
You've got the McLarens as well back there. Right, here we go then. I'll let you call it.
4 lights, 5 lights. As lights out, away we go here at Singapore on the run down turn 1. Schumacher did not have a good run. There's a McLaren already making a move further back, but at the front, it is Dr. Phil who easily clears Colin Boy. Schumacher barely holds on to third. Snake, Zola fighting side by side for a 4th position. Zola just barely has the position advantage. Here comes Dragonborn on the medium tires. He's gonna be on the inside, but he'll turn to an outside run as they come down to turn number 4. Side by side as he runs right behind the Red Bull. He is there. Dragonborn moves up in the 5th position. Higgs bossing up in the 7th over Golmanier. Meerkat up in the 9th. Herbago already up into the 10th position. A bunch of movement going on. Here comes Franners now. Franners gets by Herbago, and Herbago is going to fall back out of the points pay position. Side by side, here comes Herbago back. And in the end, yes, both McLarens already back into the points paid spots, and Dr. Phil, look at this, already nearly a 1.5 second advantage over Schumacher. Schumacher got by Colin Boy in the first lap, and now needs to try and run down Dr. Phil by any means necessary.
There's a slow Golmanator.
Meerkat just made an overtake on a non-overtaking part of the circuit.
Yeah,
Golmanator. So Golmanator is not having the greatest start, and Meerkat is flying with anger right now.
And a bit of a lock-up, and Herbago hits the back of him just very slightly.
Schumacher now cutting the gap down between the top two. It's down to about 1.1 seconds at the moment.
Tell you what, Rubago is looking.
Oh,
Very
Imperium's
aggressive
had a
for this
big
race.
twitch.
Oh,
Imperium
yeah.
had a big twitch through the S's there, and Imperium with that 10th place starting spot has not really turned that into very much. He's fallen all the way down to 14th, even with having better tires.
And this is the issue that we said about Rubago. Is quicker than Golminator, but he just can't get past because there's no room to overtake. Which means now Mantic has got a 1.8 second lead when they were side by side just a lap ago. And here we go.
This will be
he gets
Herbago's
past
best
now.
chance to go for the overtake, and Golminator
Yeah, side by
completely
side.
bombed the corner. Golminator is not done yet. He's still holding the inside line. Now he finally backs out of it at the last moment.
And Rubago gets through to 9th.
Meerkat can see Higgs Boston ahead of him. Golminator's had instant. Golminator has gone off into a wall. He's able to keep going, but this drops the Alpine to last place, and there might be small wing damage. Nothing to compromise the wing structural integrity, but there may be wing damage as well to that car.
Potentially,
This promotes
I didn't catch the
Lovell.
incident.
This promotes Lovell, the 15th, up into 11th.
Is everyone just settling down now?
I believe everyone's probably settling down. Most everyone, I think, is pretty close to the areas where they're actually going to be on pace. Schumacher is really pushing hard to try and stay within 1 second of Dr. Phil when he come to the DRS detection zones, so that way he can start trying to close down. Because Schumacher has cut the gap down from 1.5 seconds down. Oh, wow, look at that. Dr. Phil set the fastest lap, then Schumacher set the fastest lap, then Coley set the fastest lap. So these top three are all starting to close back in on each other while also running away from the rest of the field.
Lavelle dramatically cuts the corner to try and get past Fredders, but he still can't do it. He's looking to the outside. And he's
now
actually going to lose out of place to Dave if he's not careful, and he does. Dave moves up to 11th
wow.
now.
Wow, Higgs completely missed the corner coming onto the back straightaway, and he's now fallen all the way down to 9th. He lost a position in turn 1 to Meerkat, lost another position to Herbago. So the McLarens are dividing and conquering their way up through the grid. And
Now-
if you look at this, the top 9 are in an area all of their own. Dave and Frater is side-by-side contact right before they get into the braking zone. Dave will end up with the position overall, though. And Snake also is putting pressure on Zola as they come to the end of Sector 2 here through the not quite S's. And that's Dragonborn, who's just ahead of them in 4th. So 4th, 5th, 6th, all on top of each other. And Snake he may not see them yet, but he has in his ear the word, hey, the McLarens behind are way faster and they're closing. Snake wants to get this thing moving as quickly as he possibly can.
Yellow flag for Imperium, who's had a spin.
That will drop him back to the rear of the grid. So despite making it into the final round of qualifying, it seems like his race pace has not been the greatest. But look at this, the top 3 all within about 1.1 seconds of each other. Oh, and that's a McLaren! As Herbago's had an accident, and 2nd place in the championship! And for the 4th week in a row, Herbago has had an incident that has compromised his championship run. He has significant front wing damage!
And he spins again to let people pass, dropping him all the way. But he's gone off track to let people pass because he doesn't have the wing for it. Drops himself all the way down to 14. And he pits. Golminator also pits.
Look at this fight for a top 3, though. Dr. Phil leads Schumacher, leads Collie Boy. Schumacher and Collie Boy both have DRS on the Red Bull, but it doesn't look like it's quite enough for them to try and pull alongside. The top 3 all on top of each other. And I've talked about this before, I talk about this again. In a scenario like this, the advantage in this fight goes to Dr. Phil. Dr. Phil dictates the pace of these top 3 drivers. Dr. Phil has perfect, clean air, so he doesn't have to worry about the tires falling off. The longer and longer Schumacher and Collie Boy stay behind Dr. Phil, the worse and worse this battle is going to go for them as this continues.
And those top 3 are making a gap to Dragonborn as well. Around 2.2, 2.3 now seconds is the gap.
And Dragonborn is also backing. And Dragonborn is also backing Zola up to Snake. Snake actually pulled alongside Zola for the briefest of moments going down the non-DRS straightaway.
And there's been another
and
incident
Herbago
between
and Golminator has had an incident between the two of them. Herbago and Golminator have had an incident, and this is going to drop him near the back of the grid. We stay green, but Herbago now goes to last position, and someone's lost a chunk of a wing. Is that, yes, Herbago, after pitting to repair the car's wing damage, he's already has more of it.
Both drivers, I didn't see the incident. Both drivers pitted, so something must have happened as they were coming out of the pits, which is strange. Oh, and Imperium's gone round.
Schumacher falls off the back of Dr. Phil just a little bit, still within DRS range, but he's not right on the rear wing of that Red Bull. I think Schumacher is thinking more long-term. He's trying to keep the gap a little bit wider between them, so that way he's not burning through his tires as much. That's one of the advantages of the aerodynamic change from last generation of cars to this generation of cars. You can be a little bit farther back behind a car, and you're not going to be feeling the absolute worst when it comes to the tire degradation. You only feel extremely horrible, unbearable tire degradation if your rear wing is quite literally under the front, if your front wing is quite literally under the rear wing of the driver ahead. The reason for that is because the rear diffusers on these cars and the underbody aerodynamics that have come back this year, that will throw all the extra air right onto your front wing and right onto your front tires. So the new aerodynamics mean that you can follow, like we've seen here, a little bit longer than what we've seen before, but you can't be right behind someone for any significant period of time because you're going to be dealing with so much compressed air being sucked under and forced out through the car in front of you. It's going to destroy the tires. I see Schumacher. He's in DRS range, right behind the Red Bull, but you keep seeing him right before they get into the braking zone. He swings out, tries to get into an alternate line. The main reason for that, and Fratters has had an accident! Fratters has had an accident, has lost his entire front wing, and this will drop him down to 12. Might even drop him farther than that.
It was just a matter of time before something happened to Fratters. It's unlucky for him.
And look at this, Meerkat is in 7th. He has caught Snake, but Snake is trying to go for a run on Zola into the foul corner, but just can't put the power down to do it. Zola is having troubles really doing anything, and that's causing a lot of issues for Snake and Meerkat. Meerkat, big twitch in the final corner. That low wing setup that the McLaren has is compromising him, and he's not able to get the proper power down coming onto the straightaway sometimes because there's so much aero. Like, he has 3 cars right in front of him.
Yeah, he does. It's not going to help him. It's not going to help any of these drivers being stuck behind another car. But it is what it is. Fratters with a 5-second penalty speeding in the pit lane. Snake and Zola battling it out, trying to get something done with Dragonborn. But now the gap between Dragonborn and third place is now 3 seconds. So these top 3 drivers working together to make a gap, so that it's just those 3 in the running for the win.
A reminder, Dragonborn is on an alternate strat, so he will be pitting before the top 3 do. But here's the other thing, just take a look at this. I mean, it's crazy. The top 3 all within a second of each other, and they've been all within a second of each other pretty consistently for the better part of, what, 4.5, 5 laps at this point? It's honestly been an incredible performance. Yeah.
And yet they're still, and then they're making a gap on 4th place, which, considering he's on medium tyres, they must be getting a bit warm now, though, those mediums. But the fact that they're able to keep making that gap bigger is obviously going to help them at the end of the race. Yellow flag for Golminator once again. He's having a bad time today. Diggity, sorry, only half a second behind Lavelle fighting for 10th. And Lavelle gets a 3-second penalty.
Oh, that's not good. So I'm watching this fight at the front. This is what it's looking like right now. Schumacher's setup is very corner focused. He's not going for a whole lot of, straightaway speed. He's keeping pace and pressuring Dr. Phil using DRS, but he gains most of his time on the Red Bull through the corners. The good news, he's not losing him. The bad news, he can't pass him because very few of the corners here are actually wide enough to go side by side through. Most of those corners coming at the end of DRS straights as it is.
And that is true. I mean, obviously catching up in the corners is good. then it's about having that extra little something to be able to overtake, which he doesn't seem to have right now. And the time between the top three is very consistent, actually. They're just keeping up with each other.
Yeah. Cowboy does seem to lose a little bit in the last two corners, and then Gaze. Oh, and Meerkat hits
dear.
Snake in the back!
And that might let Mantic in to have a look, but he backs out before the corner.
But that's going to take a little bit of pressure off of Zola for the moment. He doesn't have to worry about that Mercedes hounding him as much, and Zola can try and focus forward for a bit on Dragonborn, because at this point, yes, Dragonborn has spent most of this race in moderately clean air, but Dragonborn also has on medium tires that are probably past their, best buy date at the moment. They're still usable, but they're past their best buy date.
They are, yeah. I mean, he'll be looking to pit very soon, I would think. Maybe in the next 3 or 4 laps. And then
That would infer that the hards can go 21 laps, 21 laps. Or
I'm not
something
sure
like that.
exactly
That'd be incredible.
I'm not sure how far they go, to be fair, but yeah, I'm not sure how far hard to go, to be honest. Mantic behind Snake, half a second. I mean, a lot of these drivers are just kind of settled. They're not really able to overtake, so they're just going around in glorified circles right now. But gaps are starting to form in the mid-pack. I mean, 8th down, there's at least a 2-second gap between each of the drivers.
Credit to Flavor. Flavor also with that qualifying ban, but he has made his way into the points-paying position. He is currently sitting 9th, so that's good news for Ferrari's hopes in the Manufacturers' Championship.
Yeah, it's going well for Ferrari right now. It's going all right for Red Bull, to be fair, 1st and 5th, as it stands.
So that fight from 4th to 7th, they've all closed back in on each other. I think without a doubt, Snake is faster than Zola slightly. Zola is faster than Dragonborn slightly. Meerkat is faster than everyone ahead of him for sure. But no one's been in a position to properly fight. I think Dragonborn may also have, maybe not, Dragonborn might not have a setup as extreme as the McLarens, but I think Dragonborn might also be running a relatively lower wing setup, and that is what he's able to use to keep the Red Bulls behind. It negates some of that DRS advantage.
That could well be the case, I mean, obviously we've seen in previous races lower wings seem to be better. I mean, generally speaking, they're better on a straight, which is kind of the only place to really overtake here, and even then...
Oh, overtake! Phil! Schumacher! Colin Boyle on top of each other!
gosh.
I look away for a moment, and
And it's
Schumacher
all
went
kicking
for the
off.
run! Contact between himself and Colin Boyd, fighting, and Schumacher will come out of it in second, but is the wing still okay? Dr. Phil, I think, may have missed the corner, and Schumacher went for a lunge, couldn't make it stick. Colin Boyd tried to go for a counter lunge. No change in position. Is there damage to Schumacher's car?
Do any of these drivers have damage? It's difficult to tell really.
Well, here's the
find
other
out
thing.
soon
That
enough.
little hiccup they all had, it's brought Dragonborn a little bit closer. He's now within 2.2 seconds of your top 3 now.
Thing is, they're so close together, they don't, unless one of them makes a mistake, you don't necessarily need to overtake at this point in the race. Oh, and Dave's hit the, Cooley's hit the wall again.
This could be big, because here comes Dragonborn with speed.
Yeah, the gap now 2 seconds. They don't necessarily need to overtake, especially with over 20 laps still to go in this race.
But the counterpoint to that, though, is that if you don't make a move to get in front now, you may never get a chance to make a move to overtake.
That's true. You got to take the chance when it comes, but like they were doing all right, just kind of going round, making that gap.
Oh, wow.
Obviously,
I keep looking at this fight from 4th to 7th. I don't know if you're seeing this, but Dragonborn really, really slow coming into the straightaway. Zola makes a move, but then I'm almost positive the Haas has a lower wing setup because he starts pulling away from Zola real quickly once they get onto a straight. Meerkat keeps making dives or moves or hints or something on Snake on the front straightaway running down to turn 1, but he always compromises
Oh,
it, kills
this
it. Oh,
contact.
and Meerkat hit Snake. Zola made a bit of a back up so he wouldn't hit Dragonborn. Snake went right to the back of him, and Meerkat and Snake are both blocking the track. Dave is coming with speed.
him and-
Is Dave gonna end up going over by one
Snake
of them?
and-
Yes, he's past Snake. Snake has now got by, but Snake has fallen all the way down to 8th, and Meerkat is now 10
Yeah, I mean-
seconds off from Zola.
I mean, they all had to slow down. Zola had to slow down because of Dragonborn. Mantic had to slow down. Snake had to slow down. So Mantic went into the back of Snake, which caused them both to spin. Which means now
Oh,
Snake is down in
it's
10th.
gone from bad to worse. Yeah, he's fallen all the way down to 10th. There's significant damage on that car. He is now last of the points-paying drivers.
Yeah. And now the battle is just Zola and Dragonborn. Can Zola make that move? I mean, Dragonborn's been pretty consistent this race. Just gonna have a look at
Zola
his time,
has
see
the
what he's
tire.
been doing.
Zola has a tire advantage, but his tire advantage is nerfed a bit because he's been in the aero wake of this Haas the entire run.
I mean, lap 10 was his slowest lap, but... Sorry, lap 9 and lap 10 were his lowest laps, but from lap 3 up to lap 8, the difference between the slowest time and the fastest time was about 4 tenths between them.
The other big thing is consider is when is everyone going to make their stops, because doing even a single lap undercut or overcut could be enough to get you ahead or behind someone. If not that, at least side by side going onto a straightaway. That could end up being the big deciding factor for all of these top 5 positions. When do all these drivers make their moves? Also, Meerkat, he may have lost a bunch of time, but I don't think it's affecting him that much. He's already cutting the gap down between himself and Zola in 5th.
Yeah, I mean, Zola's been held up badly here by Dragonborn. The gap now 4 seconds nearly. And that is Golminator, who has had another error. Made another error.
Yeah,
So.
Goldman. Yeah, that's not looking good for Goldminator. Entire front wing gone. He'll likely have to pit to repair it, and this will likely put Goldminator as the first driver a lap down in today's race. Shockingly, no full course yellows and no virtual safety cars either today. We have stayed green throughout
have.
our event.
Yeah, we have. There's been no DNFs either. Every driver's still in this race.
Now, this
lap
is
11.
Singapore. I know we got lucky earlier this year at Red Bull Ring where we had our first ever X3 race go flag to flag green.
Yeah.
I am not under some illusion that's going to happen. I think a yellow flag is pretty much guaranteed in today's race at some point or another.
Yeah, we've had some yellow flags, no VSCs or safety cars yet. Obviously,
Meanwhile, at the front,
drivers have spun, but
all the
yeah.
little hiccups that we saw earlier hasn't changed anything. Phil, Schumacher, Boy all continue to run nose to tail. This looks a lot like a classic X1 race, honestly, with the front all on top of each other and no one able to make moves.
Yeah, this brings back memories of some X1 races in the past. The front 3 just doing what they have to do. The gap now 5.6 between 3rd and 4th, so that little hiccup has really not changed anything. Surprisingly, actually. And in fact, they've actually got quicker because of it. Or it seems that way anyway, unless Dragonborn's getting slower and his tyres wearing.
I think that's probably the number one thing that's happening. That, and also now Zola is being able to bear all of his force and all of his pressure directly on Dragonborn. You know, earlier Zola had to do a little bit more to keep Snake behind him. Now Snake out of the points paying position in 12th.
Yeah, now he's...
11th, I'm sorry, as he's just overtaken Imperium. But anyway, Snake now is not in a position to really pressure Zola, and Meerkat's still about 7.5 seconds out, so Zola can do everything he needs to pressure Dragonborn. Born maybe cracking a bit under pressure at the front. Schumacher trying to overtake on Phil. Phil blocks him again.
See, he's trying,
You never
but
know when these top 3... You never know when these guys in
you
the top
don't.
3 are actually going to make their move or not.
no, you don't, do you? It could be any time, any place. Got to keep an eye. I mean, Dr. Phil doing just enough right now to stop the overtake. But being in second place, Schumacher being in second, he's got to be wary of Cooley as well behind him. One mistake and Cooley will be through, and that'll be a place lost. And in fact, Cooley was actually getting closer to Schumacher back on that straight there, and in fact, nearly went into the back of him. These 3, honestly, they're battling as hard as they can to get something done.
even with DRS, interesting enough, Collie Boy does not close on those two ahead of him on the straights very much. It seems like Collie is at his strongest in Sector 2.
That's
And
where
then
they are
Schumacher
now.
seems to be at his strongest in Sector 3. And Phil, I would argue, is strongest in Sector 1, except for the fact that, DRS kind of negates that, but the fact that he's not been properly challenged except once. Oh, and
Yeah.
Snake goes
Yeah,
with the
nice.
fastest lap now.
Nice, that's good.
Snake in 11th.
He's on 2 Leopold mediums. So. Yeah, good for good
Another
lap.
fight, not for points, but of note, Fratters in 13th, Higgs Boston in 14th.
And that's
Time
the fight we all want to
penalty-wise.
see. That is the fight
Yeah,
we
well,
all
time-
want to see, Fradders and
I mean,
Higgs.
It's always worth looking at the other battles in the field, but here's the big thing it kind of decides is Fratters has 11 seconds of time penalties. Higgs only has 3. For Higgs, really, for this position, just as long as he stays with Fratters, he'll get by him eventually.
Oh, cool.
Counterpoint to that, though, is that obviously both these drivers think that they should be fighting for points-paying positions, and
Yeah.
they're going to fight really hard to get up to 11th and 10th, not
Yeah.
realizing that all their intense fighting is going to just keep them where they are right now. Instead, Goldman right in front of the leaders! Right in front of the leaders! He has lost his weight in front of the leaders, I think!
And this is holding. Wait, no, it's not quite in front of the leaders.
You're right,
It's,
never mind. I got way too excited because I saw a red car, and
It
that
was
was
around
Dave.
Snake Diggity flavor area. I saw the
Yeah,
Alfa
I do
Romeo thinking,
apologize
oh
for that.
dear.
Way too much excitement there. I had a silly Super Murray moment. Anyways,
Totally.
Schumacher gets within a third of a second of Dr. Phil at the end of the straightaway, but then the gap opens up to about half a second.
I mean, Fradders thinks he should be winning this race,
Yeah.
and I think we all think that too, secretly. Fradders should be up there. E-Diggity,
Wait,
4
we
tenths.
are supposed to think that? I've not been thinking
Yeah.
that.
Oh, I think that every week.
I didn't get the NPC firmware update to tell me to think that.
Nah, I think that every day. Every race.
Maybe it's just a you thing then.
It's also a.
All right, here
Dave
comes
thing.
Imperium into the pits as Imperium's going to go ahead and throw on the hard tires. He started on the mediums, mind you. So now when can we expect the same thing from Dragonborn, who currently runs fourth? He's the only other driver to still be on the medium tires he
Yeah, he
started
is.
this race on.
And
And then when
actually,
Dragonborn
Mantic.
does pit, does this work out well for Zola? Does Zola start chopping down the gap between himself and the top 3? He's 7.5 seconds out from Collie Boy right now. But if he's fast enough, he might be able to close in and make it a
Dragonborn
four-way
stays out.
fight by the end of this race.
Hopefully, but Dragonmon stays out for another lap. He's happy carrying on doing what he's doing. No other drivers pit.
Schumacher closes so much in the braking zone, but he just barely keeps in touch using DRS down the straights. He's just not
And
been
here we
close
go,
enough
he's
to
going
make
for it.
moves. Under braking, here he is. He's going for it now on the outside. I don't know if he can make an overtake on the outside like that. He does, and Schumacher makes an overtake for a lead on the outside. Wow!
Good move,
Not
that.
what you would have expected.
I mean, Phil only has 8%. Oh, he hits the back of Schumacher. Phil
Schumacher
only has
keeps his
about
car
10%.
straight though.
At the time, had about 6% ERS. MSC was using all that he could with his 16% to try and overtake, and he did. He got it done. Cooley still looking in third place. Plenty of ERS. And still Zola can't do anything. A bit further down. Flavor only half a second behind Dave. Bit of a battle there. And Higgs is now
That
caught back up to
overtake-
Fradders. So cool.
I cannot believe that overtake, though. Schumacher, he had a really, really good, solid ride.
Higgs
He
and
went
Fradders.
deep by the looks of it, but he also exited, turned forward with a lot of speed, and just carried it all the way down to the braking zone. Dr. Phil saw it. He defended the inside, not aggressively,
coming
but
back.
just enough to keep Schumacher from going for it. Schumacher didn't care. He was already committed to going on the outside, just stuck it around the outside. That's incredible stuff. Here comes Dr. Phil to the
The side
inside.
by
Schumacher
side.
backs out of it at the
Contact.
end of turn 1.
So I was just watching Higgs and Fradders. They're still battling, actually, Higgs and Fradders for 12th place. Higgs overtook
Also,
Fradders.
don't look now.
Fradders went back.
Meerkat has caught the Bourne and Zola fight once again.
And a yellow flag for E-Diggity.
Oh god, this could be bad. Zola's had an instant. Zola taps the ball. Meerkat's by him now. Meerkat up in the 5th.
Annoying that for... That'll be annoying for Zola, that will. And a bit of a tap on the wall.
But no one has been able to get by Dragonborn all day. He has basically been a rock and a hard place despite being on the oldest and worst off tires for the last several laps here.
And can Mantic make a move then on Dragonborn? We will soon find out. Not this straight, because there's no DRS, but maybe the next one.
Bourne's tires have definitely fallen off because he has taken some very bizarre lines through the corners. But Meerkat can't make anything of it.
Look at the speed difference there. Oh, he's going for a dive bomb there. That is bad from Meerkat.
He runs the Haas nearly into the wall.
Yeah,
He
that's
will
bad
back
for
out of
Meerkat.
it. And here's the thing, though. All this brings Zola, after that little mistake he made, it brings Zola back into the fray, though.
Yeah, it does. I mean, should he be going for a dive bomb there? Probably not. And
He
that's
had the
win.
Renault, and the Haas and the McLaren have hit each other, and the wall.
This could be Zola's opportunity then to get past them both. They will probably both have to pit now. Right, Dragon
Meerkat's going to
pits.
stay out.
But he goes very
So now-
wide on the final corner. Dragon with a
Oh,
5-second
and a
penalty
penalty
as well.
for speeding in the pits. Oh, and Phil's got a penalty for track violations as he has been losing
Yeah.
touch with Schumacher, and now he has gotten a time penalty. Also, Schumacher has put Higgs Boss in a lap down as well at this stage
Zola
in the race.
gets past Mantic. Zola
So
overtakes
yeah,
Mantic, and now the
may
chase is on.
actually have... Yeah, I think Meerkat might have wing damage. Yes, Meerkat has wing damage. It's not as bad as what Dragonborn had, but this may stop Meerkat from being able to fight for a top 4 position.
So now the chase is on for Zola. Can he catch up to the top 3? Or will he? He's got, what, 14 laps to do it? We're just under half the race. Cooley still all over the back of Phil,
Oh,
but
ooh, Zola not having a good run, really stepping out wide. His tires are really falling off because he's been behind somebody else for so bloody
he
long.
He has.
Also, I just want to go ahead and say this, Coley Boy, I am impressed. He has spent this entire race behind somebody pretty much all day. In fact, behind 2 somebodies pretty much all day, and he has not lost pace at all. He has not shown any signs that his tires are falling off. The counterpoint to that, though, is that as I'm looking at the timesheets, Schumacher, low on fuel. Dr. Phil, low on fuel. Collie Boy, low on fuel. Zola, good on fuel. Meerkat, good on fuel. Dave is good on fuel. Flavor is good on fuel.
And
Snake
MSC
is good on
pits.
fuel.
MSC pits
So our
then
top-
from the lead.
Okay, so Schumacher is the first of our top 3 to pit. But here's the thing, as I'm looking down the grid, most of the field is good on fuel. Fradders is not, Phil is not, Collie Boy is not, Schumacher is not, but everyone else is good on fuel to the end right now. So we could still see Zola with a fight at this because overall, Zola is in a position where he has the best fuel of everyone at the top and Dragonborn gets another time penalty.
That he does. His race isn't going the way he wanted now. Well, it was before he pitted, but now a couple of penalties in quick succession. He's down in 9th.
All right, Collie Boy now pressuring Dr. Phil at the moment as they continue to make their way through traffic here. The next car that they'll catch will be Imperium and Herbago. Meerkat in the pits finally repairs the damage, and Meerkat's actually ended up behind Dragonborn, well behind Dragonborn at that. So Meerkat will have to get by the Haas that put himself and, well, put both of them into the walls earlier. So not great news for Meerkat. Meerkat will be on faster tires, though, and fresher rubber to the end, but still,
Yes, he will.
ooh, it's going to be really rough.
Yeah, it's going to be tricky now. I mean,
And
man
Lavelle
takes 5
finishes his pit.
seconds.
Lovell in 10th, but it looks like he might lose that for a moment to Fratters, saying his Fratters will likely have to pit sooner rather than later. At the front,
Yeah.
Collie Boy continues to pressure Dr. Phil, and credit to where credit's due, Higgs Boston is keeping pace with our top 2 at the moment. And now Collie Boy's gonna pit. So Phil is
cool.
going to go the longest on this set of hards. We have
Going
not
for an
yet
undercut.
had a yellow we have not yet had a yellow flag. And it's Singapore. We're almost guaranteed a yellow at some point. The fact that it's not happened yet has really kind of upset a lot of drivers' overall strategy.
I mean, what we saw with Mantic and Dragonborn, Cooley's hoping for the same with him and Dr. Phil. Let's see if Phil responds this next lap.
Zola has made his stop, and they finally thrown on some mediums as well. Also, Zola a long time behind other drivers, so we know his tires are not in good position. So overall, Schumacher back in front of Collie Boy. In fact, Schumacher, by pitting earlier, actually had a great run. He is 2 seconds ahead of Collie Boy right now.
Yeah, I think it's
But
better to
fuel
pit earlier here.
is
now.
going to be fuel is going to be the issue, though. Because right now, at least according to the game, the question is, does everyone have the fuel
lap
to make
down.
it to the end or not?
He's a lap down on fuel. And for those of you that are good at maths, that means lap 30. MSC will run out of fuel. So will Cooley. Although Cooley's only a tenth. It's only 0.1 laps down, so
How
they'll
are you
probably make
seeing
it to the
how
end.
much
On their
off
steering
they
wheel.
he is on fuel?
on their steering wheel.
Oh, I forgot to look at that. Yeah, let me check
Yeah.
that real quickly, actually.
I don't
All
know
right,
how
so
true
looking
it
on
is,
the
though.
steering wheel.
It's on the top left,
Yeah.
top right. In the little brackets. But it says minus 0.16 at the minute,
Phil,
1.5.
yeah, apparently Phil is down by about half a lap on fuel. Schumacher is down by about a full lap, and Collie Boy only down by about a tenth or so. So in that scenario, it would be Collie Boy with the advantage. All right, Phil finally comes into the pits. This should give Schumacher the lead back.
I want to see if Cooley Boy can get past him in the pit stop. This will be very interesting, this. Cooley comes around the
Oh,
final
and
corner.
Flavor! An accident coming onto the third DRS straightaway.
And he does get past Dr. Phil just. So now MSC is in the lead, Cooley's in second, and Dr. Phil in third place.
So now Collie Boy has the opportunity to pressure Schumacher. Collie Boy could go for a victory here at Singapore. I don't think Collie Boy's ever won a race before in X3. We could see back-to-back first-time winners.
That would be good. That's good for X3 if there is. If not, Cooley, if it stays like this, I mean, Cooley, what a race he's had.
Yeah.
Just consistency. Zola 4 tenths behind Snake. Well. At the back, Imperium
So
and
now
Hurdago.
the problem kind of becomes this, though. Dr. Phil has a time penalty, and he's about 3 seconds out, so I don't want to say it's over for him, but his chances of winning have significantly reduced. It's now between Schumacher and Collie Boy. The problem is both of them need to save fuel. Collie just needs to save a bit. Schumacher needs to save nearly an entire lap with just 11 laps left.
Yeah.
And we've not had a yellow yet. We're normally guaranteed a yellow. I don't want
unless
to
there's a
say it.
safety
Oh, wow,
car.
Meerkat went for the move on Dragonborn and couldn't make it work. Yeah, even a virtual safety car would probably save Collie Boy's bacon and put Schumacher back on maybe making it, maybe not. But irregardless, we've had no yellows. If we stay green to the end of this race, it's going to be either Snake or Zola. Oh, wow, look at this! Through the 90-degree corners, Meerkat tried to make the move on Dragonborn, couldn't make it stick.
God. And will he go for another move into turn 1? But then Dragonborn, he's got the speed in a straight line that Mantic doesn't have, and not many other drivers do have.
And that's insane, considering that Meerkat is probably running some of the lowest swings on the grid. Accident there on the track. That is Gominator again.
Yeah. And Flavor's coming up to lap him. So he just slows down. And in fact goes into the pits, does Gominator. He's now a minute nearly behind 15th place Fradders. And this is a great race for the Alpine team.
So don't look now, but Colorboy is actually burning up more and more fuel. He's now at about a quarter of a lap down on fuel, so he is not saving whatsoever. Schumacher is at about 1.1 laps down. We could see a bunch of drivers who have been dominating this race run out at the very end. That's an Alpine that they've caught. I believe is that Fradders? Yeah, that's Fradders they've caught. Fradders has already gone a lap down at one point in this race. So he'll likely move aside shortly here to let them all pass. Yes, he does.
But he's given MSC, DRS, and Bully Boy looking on the inside. Early braking from Schumacher. Surprisingly early braking from Schumacher.
I think Schumacher is thinking big picture championship now. He realizes, hey, look, Herbago's not in the points. Zola is 5th, but Zola's not really close in the title fight. I think Schumacher,
because he's going back through now.
Never mind, he's coming back on the outside.
So he was playing a bit of a trick there. Getting the DRS to re-overtake.
The big thing, though, is that Dr. Phil has caught these two back again, and if these two keep swapping like this, Phil could end up folding himself back into second or first. And again, yes, Phil has a time penalty, but right now, all these drivers are kind of in Hail Mary mode, just kind of go crazy to the end. You can't really do anything else. We're in the last, 9 laps of this race, and we still haven't had a yellow. If you're not already in the mindset of save, you've got to just go hard and hope for a late race yellow. And Coley's in the wall, and here comes Phil on the outside. Contact. And Phil is by. Oh, and Coleyboy hits Dr. Phil in the rear. Is there damage?
Oh, and Dr. Phil spins.
Oh, and that's right in front of Fradders. And Schumacher's going to have a big advantage now.
God. That's one for the stewards then. We look forward to looking at that one.
And they've run so long, clean, all on top of each other, but as the pressure has built, and they've not had any breaks really, finally someone broke, and this has worked out great for Schumacher. He now has a 5-second advantage on second place. Schumacher can go ahead and back his pace down to start saving fuel. Colin has to pit to repair damage. Dr. Phil's gonna stay out though.
It's annoying. And this Dragonborn's hit the wall. Mantic looking around the outside. Still side by side. What's going to happen here? Oh, they are still side by side. A little bit of contact. And Dragonborn gets back through because, again, he's running those lower wings. Mantic just can't. In fact, he's gone off track there to try and overtake.
It's so weird seeing a car out-drag a McLaren in a straightaway. But he made it stick, though. And the game doesn't say it's illegal, apparently. Yeah, but the game doesn't say it's illegal. But here comes Dragonborn back. Yeah, actually, I think Meerkat realizes it was illegal and gives Dragonborn the position back.
Oh, what is he doing?
Oh, and Dragonborn spins right in front of Meerkat.
No, he got hit by... Mantic hit the back of him.
Oh, I couldn't see due to my camera angle.
All right.
Well, that will be one for the steward, sadly. Not what you wanted to see, but Meerkat now in fourth, continuing his forward run here. At the front, Dr. Phil now in a position where he can try and run down Schumacher, and Schumacher can try and start saving fuel. But he needs to save a lot of fuel because there's not a lot of time left. I guess at this point, you're still able to set your car into low fuel mode in the middle of a race, right?
No. You've just got
well, Schumacher's going to have to do it. Schumacher's going to have to do it the old-fashioned way then. Let off the throttle earlier, come into braking zones, get on the throttle a little bit slower, coming out of a corner. That's the only way he's going to save fuel to the end. We're looking right now, 8 laps to go.
Yeah.
And here's the other thing. If we get a yellow flag at this stage in the race, if we get a yellow flag at this stage of this race, everything goes out the window because everyone's going to go ahead and pit for softs for sure.
Yeah, they are. Mantic goes into the pits now. And Zola actually moves up to third because of all that that's happened.
And that will actually put Dragonborn back up into fourth again now.
Yeah, it will.
So maybe Meerkat actually took wing damage when he hit Dragonborn there.
Yeah.
Also, look at this. Dave in 5th still, and Coley is now up in 6th. So the Alfa Romeos are still en route to having a good finishing result overall.
I mean, Cooley's shown pace all race. I mean, he's so unlucky actually to be back. He's actually really unlucky to be back there in 6th. He should be in at least top 5. Should be top 3
also,
really.
Also, check this out. Now, I don't think it will stay this way to the end of this race, but both Ferraris are ahead of both McLarens, and only one McLaren in the points main position. In the Manufacturers' Championship, this will massively work out in the Ferrari's favor, because even if Meerkat blitzes by Flavor and gets by a few other drivers here near the end, Flavor still looks like he might be able to come home with a 10th place finish, and Schumacher, if he saves enough fuel, can still win this race also.
Still got the red light on the fuel. This is going to be really awkward for them.
Well, Schumacher is currently in a position where he is only 1 lap down on fuel. I'm looking at Dr. Phil. Phil is better off on fuel at the moment, but he is still about half a lap down.
I mean, did anyone really expect there to be no safety cars by lap 25 of the race?
At Singapore. No one expects that. And here's the crazy thing. Zola is closing. I do think Schumacher and Phil are both saving because Zola is closing down slowly on them.
Yeah, slowly but surely. Couple of tenths, maybe 2 or 3 tenths each lap. I mean, it won't be enough to catch up, but if they do run out of fuel, you know, that's going to be... They won't be going fast at all. They'll be going 30 miles an hour, 50 miles an hour. And Snake has DRS, so that's cool. Now for the Alfa Romeos, the job is to really work together and make sure they don't lose any positions to Snake.
Yeah, but the problem is one of those Alfa Romeos is low on fuel, though. Actually, are both of them low on fuel?
No,
it's just Coley. It's just Coley. Yeah, Coley is still low on fuel, so Coley needs to be very, very careful to the end here. Now, Coley is in better fuel, was in better fuel. Actually, Coley's actually upped his fuel usage despite the fact that he's... And Hermago's crashed out! And second place in the championship has crashed out! And that's it! Yellow flag, full course safety car! And the entire race is going to be upended!
That is crazy. That saved a lot of people, actually, from running out of fuel. That's absolutely mad. This is perfect, though, for some drivers.
And in the championship, this is the big news. Championship, major championship implications. That is second place. That is second place in the points. For the 3rd time in a row, has crashed out. I'm going to go ahead and say this. This could have single-handedly given Schumacher the biggest positive run for a title he could look for.
And Dave's retired as well.
And Dave's crashed out. Oh!
2 quick DNFs in the space of, what, half a lap?
I can't believe it.
Gonna get Dave in, I think.
Well, here's the other thing. Look at this. Zola, he pits. He put on soft tires. Dragonborn, he's going to pit. He'll also probably put on some new tires. Snake already has relatively fresh softs. He's going to move all the way up into the 3rd position. So Snake is going to all of a sudden be back in possible race-winning contention.
Oh my. And in fact, Dragonborn pits. Zola's pitted, but the top 4 have stayed out.
Yeah. Well, this should put Collie Boy back into being able to make it to the end on fuel for sure. Dr. Phil and Schumacher. Schumacher, it's still really going to be iffy, though, because Schumacher was a full lap down on fuel when this happened.
Yeah. That's already down to half a lap, though, now. As long as it's in the positive, that's all that matters.
Yeah. Very, very bizarre circumstances here. Meerkat stayed out, and he is actually now ahead of Dragonborn.
Yeah, this is the first lap of the safety car, so 2 more. Getting underway lap 29 at the latest.
So yeah, when we get underway, we may only have one lap of DRS available, honestly, considering how spread out the entire field is. Flavor is actually ahead of Meerkat, all things considered, which is not expected. And I'm looking through the grid here.
Could be anyone's.
Yeah, we have
really
we have 13 drivers on the lead lap right now, but a lot of drivers have time penalties. I'm looking through the grid. Dr. Phil in second, 3 seconds of time penalty. Snake in third, faster, fresher tires, but he also has time penalty. He is running with 3 seconds as well. Collie Boy is fourth, no time penalties, but he is on older tires. Zola is best when it comes to tires and penalties, but he's fifth. He has to overtake 4 drivers in what will likely be 3 laps. I don't know if he's going to be able to make that work. Flavor is sixth. Some of the oldest tires on the grid. He's not had the greatest pace, but he doesn't have time penalties. Meerkat, despite all the incidents he's been involved in, no time penalties, relatively fresh tires. I think Meerkat might be able to steal 1 or 2 positions before this is over. I could see Meerkat maybe finishing 4th or 5th overall. Dragonborn, nice, fresh, fast, soft tires. A lot of time penalties, 3 seconds to be exact. Eggity is back there in 9th. If we go green, coming on to lap 29, and he is able to catch the back of the grid. Nice, fresh, soft tires. He's way back down there in 9th. At that point, you're not even thinking win. You're just thinking grab any extra positions you can. Lovell, and I believe his first start ever.
It is, yeah,
10th,
it's his first race.
but he has time penalties, 3 seconds worth. Higgs is 11th outside of the points, 6 seconds of time penalties. Imperium, if he can catch the back of the grid, and I don't know if that's going to happen or not, he has no time penalties, might be able to snick a position or 2 and get into the points-paying finishing positions. And then Frags and Golmayer are both lapped down each. I've never seen the game finish a race under the safety car. I've always seen at least a 2-car sprint to the end here.
And Dave's
I
message.
don't know.
Dave's message saying that he was looking at his MFD and he didn't pay attention and he clipped the wall. He's not in a good mood after that one.
Yeah,
All I
don't
can
blame
say
him.
is unlucky. Unlucky, I mean, it's awful. Awful way to end your race.
An awful way to end the potential run at the championship. Another crash out for Herbago as long as Schumacher is running at the end of this race and doesn't get stumped or spun out. Schumacher is liable to increase his points lead. And even if Schumacher does get crashed out and can't finish, he's going to, at the very least, maintain his 51-point lead. Yeah, we're not going to go green until lap
29.
Lap 29, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, because lights are still on the safety car for the moment. Yeah, we'll have a 3-lap shootout here for the win. Dr. Phil is second, but he has to outrun time penalties. Snake is third with even better tires than the drivers ahead. But again, time penalties. Collie Boy actually could still walk out here with second, and if something happens to Schumacher, Collie Boy could be the one in the catbird seat. Real quickly, as I go on board Schumacher,
Yeah.
I'm trying to see, is that a positive or a negative on his
Positive.
steering wheel?
I've just looked, it's
Alright, so
positive.
Alright, so Schumacher positive on fuel now. Dr. Phil,
Phil.
positive on
Yeah,
fuel.
they're all going to be positive now. And that's a
Colin
shame,
Boy
I was
also-
really
yeah.
looking...
Yeah, honestly, nothing against the 3 of them, but I was really interested to see if any of those 3 could have made it to the end of this race. Let alone win, but I was really interested to see if any of them could make it to the end of this race, where Zola was going to get a free win based off of that. And of all people to cause the yellow flag that saved Schumacher's bacon, and Phil's, and Collie's bacon, it's Schumacher's biggest rival, Herbago. And we
Yeah.
know Herbago's a great driver. It's such a shame. We know he's honestly probably one of the best in the grid, but he's just, after he kind of self-spun may be a harsh word, but
Makes
after
one
he kind of
mistake.
got into his
This is
own
what
head and
happens.
spun at
Oh,
Spa, and it's totally dismantled his entire season
See,
since.
This is what happens, he makes one mistake and it's the end of the world. Once he makes one mistake, that's it, done. Might as well end the race for him. And that's not just him that
Schumacher.
happens to, that's a few of them.
Yeah.
A few people where that, me included.
Okay, I didn't expect you to call yourself out like that. But yeah, on the
Yeah.
other hand, Schumacher, he's been in this position before on the defense. He was the number 2 driver in the Ferrari camp when he and Shelby Spark fought for the X3 championship in the full season last
Yeah, that
game.
that was season 5?
Yeah,
or
I believe
6?
5.
5, yeah.
All right, pace car running away. We'll be going green on lap 29. It will be a 3-lap shootout. Can Dr. Phil do anything to Schumacher? Can Collie Boy do anything to get back into the podium or maybe even win? What about Zola? What about Flavor? What
Right
about
then.
Meerkat? We are back underway here once again at Singapore.
And we're
Meerkat wastes
racing.
no time to get by Flavor there for the 6th position.
Bell
So
and
Meerkat
Diggity
wants to
fight.
get back into the top 5 already. Here comes Dragonborn. He'll make a move on Flavor to get by him as well.
But Flavor keeps the position.
At the front, Phil
Oh,
is there
he goes
behind
a little bit
Schumacher.
wide. Dragon Ball gets past Flavor, and Flavor is under pressure from E-Diggity. Will E-Diggity get the
E-Diggity
position?
on-
No, he backs out.
No. Yeah, E-Diggity's on fresh tires though, so Flavor is going to continue to feel the pressure. But now Lovell is putting pressure on Eggity, and Higgs Boston is there ready to capitalize and maybe steal a point, depending on how things go here.
And Cooley back up to 4th position, fighting for
Oh,
a
here
podium
comes
from
Higgs.
Snake. Higgs.
Yeah, Higgs fighting with Lovell for a moment there side by side, part of the track you don't normally go side by side at. So Higgs, Lovell, Eggity all fighting for a last 2 points paying spot at the moment. At the front though, Dr. Phil sees Schumacher. I don't know if he's trying to fight him for the win or not because he knows he has a time penalty. I think right now he's just more focused on keeping Snake away from him. Collie Boy putting pressure on Snake. Collie though is on worse tires, but Snake has time penalties, so Collie Boy could still be in position. Walk
Yeah.
out here with the podium.
All he's got to do is stay within. How long? 1 minute. Stay within 3 seconds of
seconds.
Phil and of Snake to get that.
Fratters has had an instant, and that will drop him back into 13th.
Now then.
Oh, Snake is right there behind Dr. Phil. Snake has caught Dr. Phil big time that lap.
And who was that that's had a thing? That is Fradders, who actually goes into the pits and gets a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. Unbelievable, Jeff.
Here comes Snake on Dr. Phil. This is a fight for 2nd overall. Snake on the outside of Dr. Phil. Veteran versus rookie as they come out of the braking zone. They're still side by side.
And
But in the end,
Cooley,
it's Dr. Phil who has it.
and Snake hits the wall. Cooley's right there, trying to get the position.
Just a
Cooley
lap
doing
and
all
a
he needs
half
to do.
left.
Cooley doing what he has to do, just sticking with Snake, who's in 3rd. Doesn't actually have to make a move to get a podium here. He's just got to stay within that 3 seconds, and all will be good. A little bit further back, Zola,
If Snake gets
Dragonborn.
another run, if Snake
Massive.
gets another run on Dr. Phil on the final lap like he did
have
the
it.
prior one, he will have the advantage of DRS and might be able to sneak a podium
Yeah.
finish here. But he has to mimic that perfectly in order to do so. He is barely within DRS range right now, but he has
Oh,
pressuring.
Cooley's hit the back of him. That won't do either driver any favours.
There won't be DRS on the start-finish line. There will only be DRS on the back straightaway and then the DRS straight from the end of Sector 2 to the start of Sector 3.
Yeah, and it is enabled now.
White flag in the air. Dr. Phil more than a second out from Schumacher, so Schumacher is going to walk to another win here and massively extend his points lead in the championship. The fight is for 2nd. Dr. Phil is only 7/10 ahead of Snake, and Snake is closing aggressively. He has the better tires. He has the DRS, but I don't think he's going to be close enough to get side by side with him into the braking zone. Collie Boy continues to run right behind Snake, but he's not going to be close enough to make a move. I don't think anyone is going to be able to make a move
No.
coming into the braking zone this time.
As it stands, the gap is about 2 seconds, 2.3 seconds, sorry, between Cooley and Phil. If that stays within 3 seconds, Cooley will move up to 2nd place. The gap now. Sorry, it's 1.7, not, sorry. I was looking at the wrong thing. 1.7 seconds is the gap. So I think Cooley will move up to second. MSC obviously will win this race. Unless MSC gets a time penalty. In which case,
It'd have to
everything
be
will be.
Well, here's the thing. I honestly haven't seen anything that Schumacher, Phil, or Collyboy has done wrong all day long that the game's not already penalized them for. So yeah, this
Cutting
is going to be
corners.
fantastic.
Just a little corner cut here and there. Do that a few times and you get 3 seconds, but...
All right, to the end. Schumacher didn't get the pole, started third, but made his way up into second, then made his way up into the lead. He's led a bunch of laps. Coming out of the final corner, he will massively extend his points lead and win
There we
here
are.
at Singapore. Dr. Phil will be the second across the line,
And
but
Cooley
it is
does.
Coley who will come home second. Zola overall will get third. Dr. Phil fourth. Mantic Meerkat fifth. Snake in sixth. Dragonborn seventh. Flavor eighth. So this is a great points day for Ferrari. 9th will be Eggity. 10th will be Lavelle. 11th, Higgs Boston. 12th will go to Imperium. No, I'm sorry, 11th goes to Imperium. 12th, Higgs Boston. Fridays will come home 13th, and Goldenair, multiple laps down, will come home 14th.
What a race. Radisson will be the last driver to finish. Will Fradis spin it on the final corner? Let's find out. There we are. And coming into the party right now, XRL Zola, our third place finisher.
Zola, go ahead, include your audio. Mate, that was a
Yeah.
fantastic run. And with you coming home third and Herbago crashing out for the third race in a row, second place in points seems like it may be on the table for you. What do you have to say after your run today,
want to know
Zola?
how I got third, because I'm not. I'm way off the pace here. But me and
Time
Man,
penalties.
Dr.
but
Phil
the
had
thing
3
is,
second
it
penalty,
wasn't
didn't he?
just that. It's the fact that everybody decided they wanted to go deep on their tyres
Yeah.
and try and overcut on a track that the undercut is massive on, which amazed me because Dragonborn went like 18 laps on mediums. He destroyed his lap there. He lost about 7 or 8 seconds just
Yeah.
by doing that, and I managed
he was
to
holding-
overcut him on a track that undercut is like 4 seconds faster.
I mean, he was holding you up for quite a few laps at the start there. What were
Yeah,
you
the problem is you
thinking
can't
when?
overtake. You can't overtake because of where you dive
Yeah.
from, and you might get
That's
what
it.
Mantic did to him.
Yeah, that's it, innit?
And that's the whole point of dive bomb. Yeah, you can't send it unless you're literally. And I guarantee you, he's running like 30 something wings. Because he's a rocket in a straight line.
But third
Well-
place for you.
But the thing is, it's 3 and 4 for Red Bull, so that's all I care about.
Exactly. Good for the constructors. How do you
It's
see it
pretty much
going?
over, but well, it
Ah,
should be Ferraris now.
Yeah.
How do you see your run going at Suzuka? Do you think you have a chance to get second in Drivers' Championship overall now?
I haven't raced Suzuka yet, so that'd be interesting. I haven't even raced on that
Ooh.
track yet, so that's all.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't raced
Gonna
on
be
this
good
track
then.
until last week, so I don't practice
well,
on the tracks
either
until
way-
I race on them. So
All right. Well, either way, Zola, great job on the podium, mate. Fantastic drive, keeping it
Yeah.
clean and bringing it home. Now I
Thank
want to talk with our second place finisher, Collie Boy, real quickly. Collie Boy, personally, driver of the day stuff right there. All season long, we've seen the Alfa Romeos really improve in qualifying. Then at about Spa, we started seeing you guys improve in the race. Outright leading on pace, keeping up with the top 3 all day long, finishing second in the end. What do you have to say about your run there today?
I should have won. I went into the back of Dr. Phil and done my wing after I pitted, so kind of a ruined my race. But the safety car came in handy because I was running out of fuel. So the safety car helped. I think me and a lot of people were the same though.
All right, well, second place here. You're absolutely on an upward trend right now. Do you think you can get a victory before the season is over?
Oh, I don't know. It's a big ask. I don't know. I'll try. I'll keep trying, but I just need to wait and see what happens.
All right. Outstanding job, mate. Great job
Cheers.
out there. We look forward to seeing more from you. Personal driver of the day for me. And now I want to talk with our race winner, Schumacher SF7. Schumacher, throughout qualifying, you were good, but not good enough. You only started third. But you, Collie Boy, Dr. Phil, all on top of each other, lap after lap for about 80% of this race. And then fuel became an issue, and then that late race restart. So much pressure. Include your audio, Schumacher. What do you have to say about that run today?
I was a lap and a half under fueled when the safety car come out, so I won't make it to the end.
You
I'll say
was.
that. I was, what's the word? Crying. Because I was begging for a safety car. Whoever brought it out, thank you.
It was Hrubago.
Oh, you're not going to believe
Funnily
who
enough,
brought it out. It was
Thank
Hurbago.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Funnily enough, it was Hrubago that brought it out. Your rival, in the drivers.
But qualifying, I know why I weren't on it. The track temperature was 4 degrees cooler, and that's why I started finding the pace into Q3 because I upped the tyre pressures. So it helped. But
Well, overall,
yeah, there's a
mate,
pesky,
I'm just
there's
gonna
a
say-
pest, and then going down into the pesky bloody Red Bull, Dr. Phil. I sent it down the inside of him at one of the corners. But yeah, I sent it, and I knew it weren't really fair, so I let him back past. So yeah, I had to let him back past.
What about the overtake you made on him on the outside, though, going into turn 5? Come on, you gotta say something about that. That was incredible.
Yeah, it was like I need to get past here, so I went 10 meters too late on the brakes, got out the brake pedal, turned the car, hoping it would stick and not snap on me on the rear. Luckily, it stayed, and then just powered around the outside and just hoped that he wouldn't take my bars boards off, which he was a clean driver. So yeah, good overall. So yeah, I'm really happy.
All right. And now we talk about the championship now. It has
No.
now gone from you and Hurbago being close on each other to it is now looking like a 76-point swing in your favor
Yeah.
as we are in the final stretch of the season. Do you think it's possible that you lock up this title early?
No. I won't believe it until it's mathematically possible. So, there you go. I
right.
won't believe it till it's possible. But yeah, sorry, Dr. Phil, about that incident. I did let you back past immediately just to make sure that I didn't get a penalty for it, hopefully. And then Cooler Boy, I was a bit aggressive on T1, but I had to get past him because he would just slow me up a tad. But yeah, I done what I needed to do, and thanks to the safety car Hurbago for that. Thank you.
All right. Well, once again, congratulations to our podium finishers and everyone who made it to the end. May not have been a massive field, but it was definitely a very massive and interesting race. For those of you who want to see more XR racing at Singapore, though, in about an hour's time, X2 will get underway on the exact same channel. Might have a slightly larger field. Championship's pretty much decided with the second place and points in X2 having been removed from the series for conduct issues, but there's still a lot of other fights up to play, including, wins, manufacturers championship, etc. Until next time, though, I have been your host in St. Lear 13. I have been joined by XL Shikari today. I want to say thank you very much, Shikari, for sharing the booth with me.
Right.
Next week is Suzuka. Until then, farewell and goodbye.